Hello, my name is Jacob Wagner. I'm a certified digital marketing professional here to present to you and teach you a little bit about how your digital presence serves your clients, prospects, and the bigger picture of financial planning 3.0. So the first point that we want to discuss is, what is your digital presence? Well, your digital presence is the process that people take digitally from not having ever heard of you to getting to know you, deciding that they like you, and learning to trust you, and going through the process that you see on the screen right here, where folks go from the outer portion of where they might find you on some guest blog post on the internet or on a Facebook post, and how that drives slowly and surely closer into your website. So right now, your digital presence might feel a little bit like this. And there's a reason for that. It is the World Wide Web, and it's confusing out there. And there's a lot of ways to make this easier and cleaner to understand. And one of the places that I'd really like to start this entire process with is just discussing what we've been used to, which is a business card. And your website certainly is not a business card. It's a whole lot more than that. A business card is a physical product. It fits in your pocket. It's static, and generally you get a bunch printed and you go through them, and usually by the time you get halfway through the boxes, you already need to update and do more. There's a whole lot more going on than this with your digital presence. That you can delete things, you can restart things, you can have a complete overhaul of your website, and that all of these things can work and happen in the background, so that way actually when you're reaching out to folks and you're having that first interaction with them, that you're always putting your current best foot forward. And even when you're making another best foot forward, that you're still having what you had before there and available for everybody to see till it's all perfectly polished, and then you can switch it over, and that's when you start to make some announcements to your clients and prospects and the rest of your group. So I wanted to demonstrate for you how your client and prospects feel while they're in the funnel and glide path as they come to find you. So there's a number of things that I'd actually like to point out in this video. One, every one of those beads took its own path down the funnel, and that the funnel itself supported their path firmly and completely each step of the way. There is no holes for them to fall out of, which there can be in our digital presence. Also, it was this slow spiral that it took a little bit longer for folks to take that first turn around the circle and get closer to you, and that by the time folks are down at the bottom of that funnel, they're rotating pretty fast and accelerating to come into your world. And the reason why is because you're their teacher. That you can use these digital marketing skills to leverage one-to-many communication, but it makes it so that while you're talking to clients, you might have, and there are reasons and ways to do client-specific education, but there's also the people who are on your mailing list who are presumably prospects of some sort. They're listening to you, and what you put out on the web and on that top part of that graphic, what you're providing to the public, that is all feeding into the benefit that you're creating by having a highly sculpted digital presence. And that it doesn't matter where people are in their process, that you're supporting them, that you're giving them what it is that they need. And it doesn't matter if they're a part of the public or if they're a part of they're your best, richest client, that you're still making a difference in their lives and that they want to learn from you. And maybe it's just the messages that you're putting out there on the internet, but it might also just be as simple as something like market updates and other resources. That this might be something that helps a client just kind of have a pulse on the work that they're doing with you. And at the same time, it can also help the public by letting you see what you think is important and what it is that you want to make sure that they understand. So the next group I want to talk to you about is your prospects. Your prospects are the people who have visited your website, are fans of your Facebook page, or following you on Twitter, are enjoying what it is, the thought leadership that you're putting out there and what it is that you're sharing, what issues that you're raising attention to, because, well, that's what they're caring about as well. And that's why they're following you, and that's why they're listening to you, that the value that you're putting out there is the value that they want to hear. And the thing is that another planner's also doing this digital marketing stuff, but they're doing it in their way. And so it makes it so that the folks who want your help and are attracted to your message come to you, and the folks that are attracted to their message go to that other advisor. It's about finding the right advisor for the right prospect, and that also that prospect needs to be a profitable client for the advisor as well. That you can't just put stuff out there and hope. I wish that we could actually help, the middle market and the lower market, but who is a profitable client for you is different for every single firm. And there are firms that work with the middle market or have different fee schedules, or, really only work with ultra high net worth. There are 350 million people in this country, and 7+ billion in this world. We pretty much, for the most part, we all have bills to pay. We all have rent to pay. We all are looking forward to eating our next meal. And to do that, we need money. And, well, you are the educator to help them understand why money is so important to them. And that as folks, whether they're a part of the public or one of your prospects, that when you're looking for the right client, that they're going to experience that pain moment, and it might be something that you put on a blog post. It might be something that's happening in their personal lives. But by using this funnel approach, it allows people to build that knowing, liking, and trusting process, and have a no pressure situation. If all you're doing is just sending people to, hey, here's my phone number, call me. Oh, I have a little chat box in the corner of my website. Isn't that handy and all sorts of high tech? But the other thing that you're doing is that you're actually not providing the part of the process for that prospect to evaluate, to decide to get no one like you. That for them to pick up the phone or to reach out for direct contact, that means that they're in the middle of that pain point and they're wanting the help. So I want to talk about the value that your digital presence is providing to clients, and in your website specific. There are while you're putting stuff out on the web about blog posts and thought leadership, providing client vaults and reporting tools, those things help your clients in that one-to-many fashion. And rather than needing to have even an assistant send out an email to everybody, it can be a way to actually put that message in. Well, maybe use newsletter marketing, maybe use a social network, but you're certainly not making quarterly reports and mailing them by mail to folks anymore. I'm sure some of you are, and making so that you always have these tools just 100% up to date and available to folks makes it so that you don't need to spend those labor hours, and that you don't need to use those resources, print out that much paper and use those many trees to deal with our postal system. Those are all resources that could just be provided up to date. Also, there's client-specific updates that when I work with my clients, that the 3 pools you've seen so far in this presentation are actually who I tend to cluster the conversation around. That I want to talk to the people who have never heard of you and let them know about your style and pull them to you. I want to work with the people who have decided to take that step and are getting to know, like, and trust you, and give them the information that they want. And then also, when it comes to the clients, that you have the ability to really laser target what it is that you're telling them. And maybe you're telling something to all of your clients, and maybe you're also telling something to where maybe it's folks, there's 529 rules that have gone through your specific state, or the 529 plan you specifically recommend. And so you want to go and send something just to the people who use that 529 plan. The best way to do that is using these digital marketing tools. And, maybe that's already built into your CRM, ways that this can happen. The point that I want to teach you right now is how you can use these strategies to leverage your time and leverage and multiply the effectiveness of your action. And the thing that is consistent across all of these different groups and all these steps is you need to be clear. And the more clear that you can be and do what we call as direct response marketing, which is actually having the message that your prospect or the public receives to really be speaking exactly to them at the specific point that they are in the process. And make it so that, okay, someone's seeing your social media post and it's about your most recent blog post or podcast, and that when someone clicks on that, they are seeking the answers that you talked about in the title of that podcast or in the title of that blog post, or just, even in the actual post itself that you have on social media. But by doing that, you're telling them that you're the advisor for them and that you have a piece of information for them that's going to be one piece of that bigger puzzle, and that you're there and that you're providing it. And by providing that value, then the thing is that they're just going to be looking for the next step in the puzzle. And you already provided the first step, and so they're going to keep on looking to you to be that trusted authority and to be that trusted advisor. And so that's one of the big reasons why we need to sculpt digital presence. We need to sculpt our digital brand. That by looking at this map right here and seeing each one of the steps that are going on, how this is a big spiral of activity that folks might find you from some guest blog post or social media site. We want to drive them to the hub of your digital presence, which is your website. And we want to get them there, and we want to make a way to actually continue the conversation. And there's a number of ways that we can do that through digital marketing tools, but I'm not going to go too deeply into that at the moment. The part that I really want you to sink into is that we take people from that top circle and we help get them to your website. And then when they're on your website, that you are providing value to them. That's why they got there. And if all you have is your phone number, well, you know what? They actually don't. They have several steps to jump over for them to actually pick up the phone. And if they are at that stage of evaluation, they'll do it. But before that stage of evaluation, it's good to have a plan, and it's good to have a path in place so that folks will actually do that. And the main question that you need to have in your head as you're going through and deliberating on this path is, what questions and objections are they going to have while they're going through this spiral and through this funnel on their way to you? What is it that is going to provide so much value that not only do they want to promote you to your friends, but they're actually an advocate, and that they're a referral source who goes out and says, you need a financial planner, and I have the best woman to work with ever. And here she is, like, please, would you call her? I'm worried about you. That's an advocate. Promoter's a little bit different. A promoter is somebody who says, when someone asks them, who is it that you need help? Like, I need financial planning help. I know you have somebody. What's the deal? A promoter will answer that question. They'll tell that prospect, that person, the benefit that they've received from you and your services. But we want both of these people. That when you have a happy client, they're going to answer that question, who is your financial planner, who do you work with? And they're going to tell them about you, and they're going to tell you about the great ways that you have improved their lives. And when you convert advocates, when you've made that extreme impact and benefit in someone's lives where, they saved 5 times as much money as they paid you, going to help build additional business. And that these folks are actually going through and doing this process that you're seeing on the screen without you there, that this is actually an extension of that automation stuff. And one thing to remember, when your most perfect client tells another perfect client about you, the first thing that referral is going to do is they're going to Google you, they're going to look you up on LinkedIn, they're going to check out your website, and they're going to drop into the process that you see on the screen right now. And so for all of those reasons, I have a big question to ask, and that is, you are a planner. Do you have a digital marketing plan? If you'd like to get this map, by the way, please text the words digital presence to 415-528-7403. I've got this on a few slides, and feel free to send a message there, and it'll get the map into your inbox and let you know a little bit more about my company as well. So I've shared a lot of information so far. There's all of this about what's out on the social networks, what's on your website, handling your email marketing, and how that actually comes into having a prospect or client sitting across the desk from you. And just to reiterate, to bring the point home across all of this, your work does have to be compliant. If you're your chief compliance officer, great. And there's a lot of different compliance environments out there in the world. So, that's important to remember. But check everything with your compliance officer. If you can have a friendly compliance team, that definitely makes life easier. And it's always just good to check. As far as general rules of thumb, you know what to do. Don't provide actual advice. Don't respond to somebody in a public forum and say, I think you should invest in this mutual fund. That's bad. Hey, we've provided a 13% return for our clients. That's bad. Don't put any of those things out there. But at the same time, I'm talking about a storytelling approach, and I'm talking about speaking to a fictional character, which is your ideal client, and a path and a client journey that you have designed for them. And by using that approach, you're actually pretty sure to be compliant. With this, you don't need to talk about Roth rollovers and effective employee matching or any of these things that could get you in trouble. That by using this approach, that you're going to be able to actually have your message match your ideal client, magnetize them to you, and know that you're basically using an approach that's just skipping the part that's going to make the regulators unhappy. The next session of this presentation is just going over who is it that is listening to your digital presence. They're listening at each one of those points on that map, out on the social networks, reading on your blog posts, on your website, looking at your services page, and inside your email marketing. So the first group of people that's looking at your website are clients, and they're looking at the website as a way to get the value and information that they need from you without needing to pick up the phone yet. At this point, research shows that even actually in an e-commerce situation, which means like buying physical products, whether it's a picture frame or a microphone, or your next cell phone, or actually even cars, 85% of that buying process happens before they actually pick up the phone and talk to you. And so you really want to address this entire process for your prospects, because they're going to check you out. And if someone else is doing this process better than you, you might lose that prospect to them. And so that's why you need to address this. Next group of people that are definitely checking out your website it's around PR, it's around the press. If you're going to be if you're going to be in publicized pieces, they're going to hopefully have a backlink to your article, and that they want to know that what it is that they're putting out there about you, and that the people who click from their digital presence over to yours, that it's going to look great. You have created an elegant presentation that will be an excellent piece of follow-up to the content where they quote you. They want, when someone comes over to your website, for that to actually be just a nice, smooth transition. Who else is looking at your website is, the authorities. And I've seen people go through audits, and in general, this level of the process needs to be completed by the web designer and at that level, but they might not know what you need out there. They might not know, oh, no, sir, you actually definitely need to talk to your attorney about this, because, what you have for your terms and conditions or your privacy policy, that's actually not an expertise. They can implement it, but that's not an expertise that they have. There are very few people who actually understand financial services compliance environments, who are marketers, and can actually differentiate. And even if they do, they're not an attorney, they're not a lawyer, and it's best, as you know, to pay for the proper specialized advice. The last group of people who are watching you are other members of the Financial Planning Association, our friends, our peers, folks who are other planners that are looking to you for your thought leadership and are learning about how to be a better financial planner from you. Also the vendors that we have that come and support these events the Financial Planning Association produces for us, as well as other allied professionals like myself who want to support you in your practice. Now that we've discussed who it is that is looking at your website and the different states and questions they might have when they're coming there, what it is that they might be trying to glean out of your email marketing process and understand about what your strategy is as you're posting on the internet, I wanted to discuss just a couple good items to have on the footer of your website. Please check with your lawyer on each of these items, especially when it comes to your specific compliance environment and how that applies to privacy policies and terms and conditions. These two items are generally just a good idea to have on your website. You can go out and you can Google some plain format versions of this, but again, please confer with your lawyer on the specifics that you need for your firm. The next item that I think is good to include in the footer is a link directly to your ADV Part 2. So instead, I've seen a number of advisors just link over to the SEC or to the IARD. I'd like you to take the next step beyond that. What I'd like you to do is to go to the IARD, look yourself up, go and click on the link over to your ADV in the Part 2 that we need to have disclosed, and take the link from there. And let's put that link in the footer of your website. I also suggest that you put it in your email, and also good disclosure information at the beginning of your email marketing is always a good idea. But check with your compliance officer about the best strategy and way to do that. The last section of what I wanted to discuss on this page is called GDPR. And what GDPR is compliance for digital marketing. This is a series of laws that were rolled out in the European Union last year and took effect. And most of who they're looking for in the big agencies and the people who might give you fines, they're actually looking at Facebook and the really big agencies, Credit Karma, all of these websites that have millions of users, and making sure that they are giving proper control, disclosure, and transparency around the storage of personally identifiable information, as well as how that is retained and used. And lastly, it actually gives a lot of control to the user as well. At this point, the law is only actually applicable in the European Union, and if you have clients in the European Union, you do need to abide by these laws. But if you're only in the United States, this is not presently the law of the land. It is, however, a good idea. It's good disclosure. It's a good way to do it. And so I do expect the rest of the world to take this on just in terms of increasing data transparency. So I've explained all these different elements to you, from technical things that you want to have on your website as far as what to link to make sure to be legal, to who it is that's looking at your website and why it is that they are there and what it is that they're thinking about. And I want you to ask yourself, why is all of this stuff important? Why is it that I care? And well, marketing should be informative. It shouldn't be annoying. The purpose of marketing, unlike what we've been exposed to on TV, is that true effective marketing, that we want to get our message in front of our ideal prospect when they are available to listen to us and to hear what it is that we have to say. And one example is that you might be at the grocery store and it's late and your spouse asked you to go and get some ice cream. And well, if next to you at that ice cream refrigerator is the most perfect client in the world, you still probably just, maybe say something about ice cream, but you don't want to proposition the client. It's about having that. This is what direct response marketing is. It's about having that message market match. Find people that when they're asking questions about you and wanting to learn more about your services, you want to be providing answers. When they're listening and becoming more educated about what you provide, then you want to be in that voice as well. And by having a sculpted digital presence, you can create the different areas where this can happen, that someone can go and be searching for you on Google, and then you can be talking to them later on Facebook, so that you can actually be speaking to them when they are open to learning more about you. The other reason why I'm bringing this up is that marketing is a big part of our bigger picture. A lot of planning for years has survived by referrals. And though referrals are important, even today, they're still going to end up going into this digital marketing stuff. And I'll explain that a little bit further down the line. But first, I want to talk about Financial Planning 3.0, which is about this bigger way that we are interacting with our finances and the ways that financial planning is a profession and the way that financial planners are a part of that. And before I dive too deep into it, I want to start with a plug. And what this plug is for the whatisfinology.org podcast. And What is Finology is discovering and exploring what Financial Planning 3.0 is, what the nature of our profession is, and what is Finology, which is the study of exchanging value, which a lot of the time deals with money, but there's other ways in which we exchange value with each other as well. And rather than trying to pretend that money is value neutral, we can start to discuss how it is an extremely charged part of our lives. There's writers and podcast recordings from a number of the luminaries of our profession where they go in and they discuss some of the deeper questions that they'd like to share with you. So a big part of this 3.0 stuff is that you are changing people's behavior. That as people learn about you on the web, that they are having they're learning from you, that you are impacting their conversations, that people are actually, like, when they have these questions with each other, that they bring up the conversation, and that what you have taught your clients is a part of what's going through those conversations now. And as a result, nowhere in here are you giving advice. This is about you being a thought leader, and it's about you sharing your way of looking at money. This entire process involves telling a story that, rather than actually trying to talk about this Roth 401k rollover or this tax strategy or the best 529 plan to use, instead, this approach is talking about identifying who it is that you want to work with, putting that down on paper, saying, this is my ideal client and who I want to attract and who I want to work with, and then creating a journey for them that makes it so that as they find their way to you, that you're actually creating an easy glide path, like we saw earlier, where the people who are going to be most attracted to your way of working are going to be the ones that get to the bottom of that funnel. And that before that, the people who leave, those are not necessarily the folks that you want to work with. And that as you go through all of this, that it's continuing to build that relationship, to build that foundation. And ideally, as they interact with your website and your digital presence, there's a ton of statistics. It's very different than financial planning statistics, but this can give a massive amount of insight into why someone's coming to you, what it is that they're trying to learn, and therefore, when you talk to them, and even actually beforehand in your email marketing, you can figure out what people's needs are and speak to that so that you can be that much more valuable to your clients, your prospects, and the folks who are just browsing you on the internet. Amongst the fellows with this whatisfinology.org project, that Rick Kaler really likes definitions. It helps him be able to have something to bounce off of as he's exploring. And he's on one side of things. And then over on the other side of things, we have Elizabeth Chiton, who very correctly guides and coaches that we don't want to contain what this 3.0 stuff is too quickly, that there's a lot to uncover, there's a lot to discover, and that we're going to do that as we continue to have these conversations. And this is just but one beginning to that. And with Rick, one of the NASRUDEN conferences, we identified that a good starting definition for Financial Planning 3.0 is how the financial planning profession and how individual financial planners shape and change culture and society. This work that we're doing, it actually, I can see in the conversations that happened when I was young in the 90s and the early 2000s and lately that one, awareness of the CFP marks has drastically increased. A lot of people know who a CFP is and the work that they do at this point. Sometimes there's, they don't know the breadth and depth of the work that you can provide, but they've at least, most folks have heard of the profession at this point, and that's a huge step forward. And a part of what's happening in that process as well is that our work, the benefits that you're providing clients, that's seeping into the conversations that people are having with each other, that they're learning from you, and that by you being a thought leader in the way that you want to be a thought leader is how you're going to attract the right people to you. So I have a question for you. Who is it that you want to impact? Because you are a great financial planner, and the work that you're doing is some of the most important work that is happening today. And that you have the opportunity through digital marketing and through sculpting your digital presence to be able to teach the people some of what it is that you want to make sure that they know. And so what is it that you want to teach them? What is it? What skills do you want to make sure that they have? What resources and what knowledge would you like the people who are coming in your office to have before they actually even have that first conversation with you? There is this change to broader society. I also, you are running a business, and it's critical for you to make sure to keep that business profitable. And that a part of what happens in this process, and because you get to make this one-to-many communication, that you can speak to the people who are bringing in money into your firm. And you can also speak to the people who are getting ready to. Maybe it's that they haven't had that pain moment yet, or maybe that it's actually that they're just simply not ready to come on board. But by allowing them to actually continue to just take their natural process and their glide path, that as long as you're providing value that continues to magnetize them to you, that they're going to continue to cultivate that relationship with you, even though you haven't had any FaceTime with them yet. They can make themselves be a better client, that they'll prepare themselves to be a better client as they approach you on their own individual glide path. So as you think about who it is that you want to impact, I want to go back to our larger professional impact. And the first point that I want to bring up right now is that there are a lot of people who need our help, and that fundamentally it's really unlikely for there to be a ton of cross competition. Maybe there's individual moments where an advisor is deciding whether they want to work with one firm or another, but at the same time, between the variety of approaches, fee schedules, ways of working, size of a firm, and how every prospect and client, evaluates that and how they decide that they want to work with, that there is a massive more demand than there is ability for advisors to actually meet that demand. And that's actually one of the reasons that this digital presence stuff can be really helpful. That's just one of the ways that we can make that broader impact. You have the opportunity to share your unique thought and the way that you hope that folks understand to relate to their personal finances. That you have the ability with sculpting your digital presence and by reaching out and marketing to your ideal client to have it so that you are in their lives, that they're learning about your way of doing it. And if you're providing value and being insightful, that a part of how that's going to show up in their lives is they're going to talk about it with their friends. They're going to talk about it with their significant others. And that by doing this, a part of what's going on is that as you do this, the people part of your audience are having your thought leadership be a part of their conversations. And the same with your peer. And so just to give an example, say we have a young financial planner who is in the Bay and is a part of that entire tech startup culture and community, that he can go out and he can talk to folks using their language and using an approach that appeals to them and say, this is a better way to work with your finances. And as they do so, acquire clients and build their business. Meanwhile, to give another example, think about someone in, say, I don't know, the mountains of Colorado and the Vail area, born and raised out in nature. And so they can use a metaphor that's actually, using nature to communicate the complex subtleties of these financial planning topics. And that by doing so, that as their prospect goes and experiences just their community, the trails, the world around them, that if there's something that this planner has said that really clicked and was using that nature metaphor, that when that prospect sees that metaphor in nature, that's a reminder and a reiteration of the authority that that financial planner is in that person's life. And that by doing all of this together, that what we're doing is that this is a grassroots approach. That Kevin Keller's the first person to say that with the $9 million that they have as a budget to put forward to advertising and the NPR pieces and the other pieces that they put out there for us, that they're using their ad spend as wisely as possible. But the big companies, they're the ones that you're seeing on those TV ads. They're out there and they're, and a lot of the times, being the thought leader that the public is getting to hear. And by using this digital marketing strategies, that you can be that voice and that they can learn the difference between you as a professional and them as that bigger industry. As you go through this, this process also allows, like, you're attracting the people who are your ideal clients, and that also has to be a part about where they are in their stage of life. That folks need to, a lot of the times when folks come onto a firm, it's because they're in the middle of experiencing a pain point. And maybe that pain point is a personal finance problem. Maybe it's that they have an inheritance. But before then, it's important for you, to let them evaluate you. And by attracting them to you, that what you're doing is making it so that you're building that relationship and becoming their trusted advisor before they're ready to come on board. And when the conditions are right, they're going to come to you. And if you're their trusted advisor, and if you've been providing value the entire way through the process, you're going to be the first person they call to look for that next step. So one of the things that is a huge result of having your digital presence properly sculpted is that you actually have something that can support your operations, and that this actually can help you through the succession process, that as your clients look to you as you're both aging and as you're each approaching retirement, that one of the questions that's inherent in the client's mind, because it's why they're coming to you, is what's going to happen when my advisor is retired. And that by having a good digital presence in place, that this is an asset that's going to continue to work for you. And that rather than you being the star of your practice, that you can have the operations and systems that are a part of your practice be the center of everything. And that my teacher, Ryan Dice, who is the CEO of Digital Marketer, my school of thought of digital marketing, says, don't be the star of your practice. Instead, let your practice be the star, and to be a planet orbiting that star. And so when it comes time for you to expand staff, to bring on other advisors, to look to that succession plan, that what you're doing is you're actually making it so that you have a container in which, as you exit, that the person who's coming in already has the systems and everything that they need to succeed. And that also, that this is, if that person who you're looking to be that succession plan, if they don't like the way that you've sculpted your digital presence, that actually might be one of the hints to you that they aren't a good fit. And to keep that in mind, that there's a lot of ways in which having an effective digital presence gives you the external ability to have a litmus test and check and see if what you're putting out there is congruent with your ideals, with your mission, vision, and value. And that as you sculpt your presence, that a part of what's happening is that you're naturally embedding your deeper offering in the work that you put out there. That as you tell your story, as you provide the guidance to your prospects and clients and share with them insights about your relationship with money and their relationship with money, that what's going on is that you're becoming more of that trusted advisor, and that you don't need to be there for them to get the maximum amount of benefit and to get value out of you being their teacher. And so one of the things that I want to coach you on, and that I coach all my clients on, is that less is more, that I would rather you put out fewer well-crafted pieces of content than try to adhere to some sort of burdening content schedule. That a lot of times when folks come to me initially, that they think I'm going to tell them that they need to email their list every single week, and that basically it's going to be a bunch of work that's unpleasant and overwhelming to them. And the truth of it is that the digital presence that works for you and the time that you have allotted is probably the same amount of attention and frequency that your clients can give you. And so if you can really only muster the ability to send out a newsletter once every 3 months, well, as long as you make sure to stick to that schedule and make sure to do good on the promises that you're giving your list, then they're still going to be there and listening. And as they listen, that you're going to actually have people who are going to come in and go out of this funnel, that it's not going to look exactly like that video at the beginning of this presentation. That because it's a digital funnel and it's not a BB inside of a piece of plastic, that this is people's attentions will wane, that the problems in their lives that will alter. Sometimes this brings them closer to you. It also might be them stepping away. And, that's fine. As long as you're making sure to take that strong step forward and provide a ton of value, then your audience, your prospects, and your clients are all still going to be getting a lot out of that. And the people who are paying you, your clients, are already bought in and have their signature on the dotted line. So they're going to be listening to you, and they're going to be a part of who's gaining value out of the work that you put out there. And as you tell your story, that this enables you to think about, as you're creating content, think about the problems, the needs of your ideal client, that they have these likes, these places that they go to learn, these mentors, and as you go through and you fill out who this person is and flesh them into a real character, that you can start to think about what they feel and what they need. And that as you start to just continuously do that, and to take the lessons that you learn from your clients and put that into the story that you're giving your ideal client, and you're using that as ways to change the glide path that people are taking to your front door, that you'll end up just honing and sculpting your digital presence that much more as you go through the process. I want you to think about current events and, some of the questions that you hear frequently in your client meetings, and, how that relates to the deep thoughts of your ideal client. And that as you go out there and share what it is, like you can take something from a client meeting and go and, never share any names, never ever share any details, mix up a couple of things maybe just for good measure, and see how this fits with the ideal client that you put out there. I do actually recommend to a number of my clients that rather than one ideal client is good, but actually having 3 is significantly better, that you can use this like a zone defense in basketball. So I know this is a lot, and why I want you to think about a story-based approach and fitting it so that what works for you and your schedule is that I want you to make sure that you don't overcommit. That this is first and foremost, it isn't a directly revenue generating activity. At the same time, when you put the money and effort into marketing, it's amazing to see how clients do come to your door more frequently, although that path and attribution can be difficult. And when you don't market as much, sometimes it makes it so that your phone doesn't ring as much. And it can have this, I'll see folks vacillate between, they do some marketing, business starts to get busy, and then it's too busy. They stop paying attention to the marketing as much, and then business dries up, and it starts to be this cycle. And so by having a plan, you can start to create consistency to this and really move on to the next and bigger question, which is that I need you to ask yourself, how is it that someone's becoming your client? What are the questions, problems, reservations that they have as they approach you? And that as you do this, that you can automate a fair amount of this process, but you can't automate everything. I'm demonstrating how it is that you can leverage your voice and make it bigger, but at the same time, you can't automate everything. There are a number of things that you can automate. But you can automate parts of the website experience, how your opt-in bribe is triggered on the beginning of your website. You can, schedule the indoctrination process of your, welcoming someone into the firm. And you can also make it so that you can automate a bunch of the data acquisition process so that you can, when you actually sit down with a client, that you have more information that you have to start the conversation off right. And that makes it so that you can actually get deeper into that client conversation immediately and hit the ground running. It's also easier so that you can actually automate just some of the data, like if you need to get someone's tax returns, other things like that, ways that you can use file vaults and have these tools and infrastructure in place so that you can save time as you go through this process. Same time, there's a lot that you can't automate. Now, you can't automate reactions to the news. You can't automate a true content schedule. Though you can build something out a few months out, there's a way that you have to voice something if it's going to really be, agnostic of current events. And if you've talked about something, you're like, oh, the 4th of July is coming up, and the person who's listening to it is October, it's in October, that's a problem. And I've also actually seen problems with clients where they're trying to put out social media content, and they're putting it out 2 weeks ahead. And as a result of it being 2 weeks ahead, there's just sort of this disjoining between what it is they're putting out there and what's going on in the present when the people are actually reading the messages. And what they found was that it actually worked a lot better to schedule that week's messages, and that would make it so that they're within relatively the right amount of time, but not to go further than that. And then at the same time, do need to keep a little bit of an eye on it so that if someone mentions you in the news, if there's somebody a prospect that reaches out to you, that you do have the systems in place to react to them quickly. One of the deals with this digital marketing world and this online world that we're in right now is that folks do want to have an immediate reaction. And so you can even, a good example of what you can and you can't automate together would be something like a chatbot. That you can automate the beginning of that chatbot where you're like, okay, what are your needs? What are your questions? You can use this entire process to figure out a fair amount about that. But there's a certain point where at a complexity of question that you can't automate it anymore. And that if you can have the system where you can have that automation working for you at the beginning, and then when you get to the next step, that you're able to step in there, that is going to make it so that the person that you're talking to is at the height of their problem and that they just got to you, their solution. And those are the moments where, hey, come in, let's talk about it. It's really likely that someone's going to come in and that you're going to also, feel that trust from you and continue to build that trust so that they actually become a client. And this is a good demonstration of just the process that someone takes to become your client. Each time this happens, it's different. It's a really special thing that when you bring a client on board, that as their trusted advisor, that they are looking to you to safeguard one of the most precious things that they have, their future. And that when they look to you, that they need this advice, that they don't know what to do, and that you're the person who's going to provide that result. And that if you've gotten to this point in the process, that they know that they like you, they know that they trust you, and so they're ready to come on board. And that all the people who haven't made those qualifications have gone along the way, and that you've actually already qualified them as not a client, but without actually ever having to spend any time with them, which is just amazing. And all of this points towards the bigger picture and this 3.0 stuff. And what is it that your audience is learning from you? How is their life better for the lessons that you're giving? Is the information that you're putting out there something that just anybody can produce? Or is it that special something that you can share and that gives the insight that special something that is the same reason why your clients staying loyal to you through the end of their day? And that as you do this, that the first time that someone comes to your website, that this is the first impression of your firm, and that what I'm describing is a good way to bring people on, by having these elements of them knowing, liking, and trusting you. That not only is that bringing folks in to the last step, which is helping you make sure you get paid, but that actually, more importantly, you have an asset. That this digital presence is something that if something happens to you, that's still there. That when you go to sell your practice, that this is something that goes along with it. And that can also be a part of the rubric that lets you see if the person that you're considering succeeding your firm is a good fit. And that as you go through that transition, that the processes, the operations, the plan that you have enacted is actually going to be one of the things that helps you during that transition process. So this is a pretty amazing thing that we're in the middle of. That this is a new era of the financial planning profession. That by using these digital marketing tools and by sculpting your digital presence, that we are presented with an opportunity like we have never seen before. That the profession can go and find the people who are going to be the best clients for them more cheaply than we have ever been able to afford. That we can go and we can find the person that you want to work with out there on the internet, and that you can go and put yourself out there in a way that magnetizes them and creates a dance where they are learning about you and they're deciding that you're the right person to come on board. And throughout all that process, you're doing this in a one-to-many fashion. So it does take some time, but it takes a whole lot less time than doing it organically. Think about when you look at your email opens or you look at some Facebook post that you just press the boost button on without any regard, that you're going and you're sharing your brand with hundreds to thousands of people for a few bucks. And then think about going to a networking meeting and you do get really great quality face-to-face time, and there's something very special to that. But if you go around and you spend 1 or 2 hours at a networking meeting, if you walk away with 10 cards, that's pretty amazing. That means you were networking pretty hard. And of those, how many of those people are actually viable prospects? So just by the law of numbers, this is a really cost-effective, savvy way to go about it. And that I want your help to make sure that we make the impact on our society that we want to see. That society needs you. That we need to make it so that everybody gets the financial advice that they deserve, and not just necessarily the people who can afford to work with you. And going through this process, you end up still making it so that you can run a profitable business, and you're also impacting those folks who aren't a good fit. And I want you to just think about the opportunity that you have right now. That at this moment, you have people who are a part of your digital presence. And that my challenge to you is that you need to see who it is on your list, a part of your audience right now, who is an order of magnitude more valuable than your average client. And that By using effective strategy and by following and providing a great story that shares your mission, vision, values, purpose, and why it is that you want to be a part of this profession, that these folks will raise their hands and they will come to you. By having a good digital marketing plan, you're going to make that impact that you want to see on the world. With that, thank you very much. Please post questions about this video in the comments of this thread. I hope you've learned a little bit about how it is that your digital presence serves your clients, prospects, and Financial Planning 3.0. My name is Jacob Wagner. I'm a certified digital marketing professional and principal of digital marketing for FP. We're a marketing agency that focuses specifically on the financial planning profession because our mission in this world is to make it so that as many people get adequate financial planning advice as possible. And we're here to work with financial planning firms like yourself so that we can make that impact on the world. Take care and have a great day.